Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our amazing and super exciting program. My name is Roni Rufian. I'm a career counselor at the UCLA Career Center in collaboration with our wonderful mathematics department and Zenith, who is here on behalf of the math department. Welcome to Careers in Mathematics. This is going to be a very exciting program today. We have 4 amazing speakers who are going to talk to you about their career path, how they got started, what it is that they're doing, and any advice that they have in supporting you guys, our undergrads, in your particular career paths based on, your major, or if you're in the math major or relevant major as well. We are recording this session tonight, so just so you know, for the next hour, it's going to be more of a presentation style where the speakers will have about 10 minutes or so to talk about their career paths and so on. At about 5 o'clock or 5:05, we're going to be opening out breakout rooms, and each speaker will be in a separate breakout room, and you'll have the option to go back and forth to breakout rooms and connect as a group in the breakout room sessions with our speakers and ask them specific questions that you may have. We're going to go ahead and get started with the quick little overview. I know Zenith is going to do a quick little presentation about the math department and their resources, and I'm going to do the same thing about the Career Center. So, trying to move on to the next slide. There we go. All right, Zenith, you are.
Yes, hi everyone. My name is Zenith. I am the communications manager at the math department. I particularly work with our faculty and our students with hosting events and anything to do with our donor relations and alumni relations. As many of you may be math students currently or thinking about math or have already graduated, I just want to put this information out there for you. Like if you need any kind of support with advising about your major, career planning, I highly recommend going to talk to our counselors and our advisors in the Math Science building in the 6th floor in room 6356. The website is also available right there. But yeah, if you have any of those kind of questions, this is just basic, want to remind all of you, we're here to help you. You just go to student services. We do have an event coming up. Recently, the Undergraduate Math Undergraduate Math Students Association also will be collaborating with the department. The game night is open to everyone. We'll be hosting it on Tuesday, April 30th. Just a fun little de-stress in the middle of, midterms and, you're constantly taking tests, homework, all that stuff. There will also be a feature of the Even Quads deck, which is like a really fun math game that includes like art done of like different women mathematicians on each card. And there's 10 different types of games to play. So that's like the main highlight of the game night. The RSVP link is also there, and I will also, drop it in the chat. But yeah, if you're interested, the information will be out there. It'll be posted on the math website as well, and I hope that, some of you can make it.
Thank you so much. All right, I'm going to quickly talk about the Career Center as well and how we support our undergraduate student population. I apologize, my slides are a little bit slower. Here we go. All right. So like I said, my name is Roni Rufian. I'm a career counselor at the UCLA Career Center. I work specifically with our South Campus STEM students, and I do programming for our STEM students, in particular our physical science department. So I'm very excited to be doing this again with Zenith. This program has been amazing. We've been doing it for over 10 years now. And we've had a lot of great speakers that come in and talk to us. Quickly about our services, there's 2 types of appointment sessions that you can make. Our 30-minute one-on-one sessions are through Handshake. We post those appointments every Friday from 2 to 4 p.m. and you can only sit up to 2 weeks in advance. So if you see that a calendar is booked or there's no available appointments for a month, that's only because they're available visually to see them up to 2 weeks. And students cancel all the time. So you can go on that calendar on a random day and there might be appointments available because those were cancellations. So just be patient, keep checking. Those 30-minute appointments are great when topics like, I'm not quite sure what I want to do with my major. I'm not sure, I'm in the math major, not sure if data science is right for me, or not sure if I want to go into finance and so on. So we can have those conversations more so in those 30 minutes. We do offer drop-in sessions. Those are 15-minute shorter sessions. Those are Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays from 10 to 12 and 1 to 3. And those could be virtual and in person as well. Those are appointments like, can you take a look at my resume, cover letter? Can you make sure my LinkedIn profile looks up to par and so on. So those are great. Can you tell me what the Career Center does? That's what those sessions are used. And they're usually pretty slow. So there's always counselors there and our career peers. We do have tons of events and workshops. All of those are accessible through Handshake. If you go to your Handshake account and click on events, you'll see all the events that are coming, including employer information sessions and so on. Our website is amazing. We have tons of articles, resources on there. So there's a lot of resources that you guys can take advantage of. For example, there's tons of information on interviewing and mock interviews and things like that, potential questions that can be asked. All of that is on our website, and then you can follow up with us in doing mock interviews as well. On Handshake, there's tons of useful resources as well. So Handshake is the first one there. We put these resources, VMark, Parker Dewey, all the ones that you see here. It's embedded in Handshake because it's free for you guys. So as far as your access to our online resources, once you graduate as a senior, you have access to Handshake up to a year after that. Unfortunately, you only have access to see the career counselor to see one of us up to 3 months after. So if you're graduating in June, you have access to work with us all the way to the end of September, but then you have a whole year of Handshake. And there's tons of great resources on Handshake that you can use. You can still do the job search and internship search on there. Our programs are still accessible to you, especially the virtual ones, and you can access those through Handshake as well. If anyone has any questions about our resources and so on, I'll be on for the rest of the session as well tonight. So feel free to reach out to me and talk to me about that. And I'm more than happy to give you more information. All right, Zenith, I'm going to turn it back to you.
Again, I want to thank our panelists so much for being here today. They all come from such really unique careers, and I'm excited to also learn as much as all of you. So these are our panelists. Thank you so much, the 4 of you, for joining us. You are welcome. Anyone is welcome to start, whoever feels comfortable going first. So for the students who are present today, the little bit about how this event is going to go. Each panelist will be speaking for around 10-12 minutes about their career, their education, and any other advice and things they want to share with you all. And then you will have the opportunity to speak with them directly in breakout rooms, and that way you can hop in from room to room, and then the panelists will have a little bit more, personal time with each of you to talk about, whatever questions you have, anything like that. Right now, it's most likely going to be around like 5 p.m. So like the last half an hour or so, it may be even sooner or later while you get to talk to the panelists. So right now, I hope you all pay attention and give your fullest, attention to our panelists. And yeah, any of our panelists can get started, whoever wants to go.
I'm happy to go first if nobody else wants to.
Yeah, please. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, can I share my screen?
Oh, yes, of course. Hold on, let me make you a co-host real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you should be able to share your screen now.
Okay, let me see. Okay, can you guys see my screen?
Yes, I can see your screen.
Okay, perfect. Okay, hey everyone, my name is Sudhanshu. Thank you guys so much for inviting me. I'm very happy to be here. I'm an ML engineer at Qualcomm AI Research. And today, while I was preparing for this presentation, I started to think, right? What advice from me as a 22-year-old who just started their first job might be useful? Probably not career advice. I just joined. Definitely not life advice. I'm only 22. Everyone else on this panel has way more life experience, way more career experience than me, and it's probably going to be way more interesting. So what might be really useful for me to share is my experiences at UCLA. because I just graduated. I graduated just 8 months ago in June 2023. All of my college experiences, all the, highs, the lows, all the fun, everything that went poorly, everything that went well, that's really fresh. And even though I knew I wanted to get a machine learning fairly early, I didn't really know what it is about ML that I liked. So I explored all sorts of different things in the last 4 years. And the theme of this sort of presentation is last 4 years were let's just give things a shot. So that's all I did for the last 4 years. And let me go into some of the things I explored. So quick bio about me. I double majored in computer science and mathematics at UCLA. I was in various student orgs, ACMAI, Data Res, Creative Labs, all of which I'll talk about in a little more detail in the next few minutes. I did research pretty much my entire time at UCLA with Professor Eirik Bækkelund, Professor Wu Fang, Professor Grover in the math department and the CS department. And now I'm in Qualcomm AI research. So I'm a part of the core generative AI team. I'm working on enabling large language models, diffusion models, making them work on edge devices like phones and laptops. So that's just a brief about me. And let's talk about how all of this came to be with me getting into ML for the first time. So I think like most freshmen, right after high school, I had the standard sort of STEM education. I knew physics, I knew calculus, linear algebra, and a little bit of programming, right? And I knew absolutely nothing about ML, not even a little bit. I'm sure most of the folks here probably know a lot more about ML than I did back then, but I knew nothing, right? And I was lucky to do a very sort of informal internship at Julia Computing, which was the company that invented the Julia programming language. And they had an opportunity to just explore ML a little bit. I said, this looks pretty interesting. Let's give it a shot. And it turns out I really, really, really enjoyed it. Just understanding gradient descent, I remember that very vividly. It all sort of made sense to me in that moment because the mathematics of it all was so simple and so elegant, and it just needed my high school knowledge to get a foot in the door. So I had a lot of fun in that internship, and I got to apply machine learning to a problem that I just came up with in physics and simulating charged bodies. So I got to combine various interests in science and machine learning and mathematics, and I really enjoyed ML. Now, the cool thing is, as soon as I joined UCLA, I was initially going to be a CS major, but on my very first day at orientation, I decided to add in mathematics as a second major. So that internship and various other things made me realize that I really enjoyed viewing things in mathematical ways, right? And in my freshman year, I decided to just start exploring, right? So, like many of you guys, I'm sure I attended lots of workshops. ACM AI was my main student org. I attended ACM AI's workshops and various things in like game design, competitive programming, cybersecurity, all sorts of fun things. And something that I really made a lot of time for, and I would encourage everybody to do, is to attend office hours for all sorts of professors. Now, I didn't really go necessarily for help with homework or problem sets. I also really wanted to talk to these professors and grad students and really understand what they were thinking about their field. Why were they in that field, and why did they enjoy mathematics in the way that they did? And this turned out to be an amazing idea because that's how I met Professor Levon Nerbekian. He was actually my Math 31A professor. I mean, I'm talking about Calc 1 professor, whom I had a really nice conversation with in office hours, and I started doing research with him in my freshman year. So before I started research, I should mention again, I knew a little bit of ML, a little bit of calculus, a little bit of programming. I definitely 100% did not know anything about high-dimensional, non-local, mean field games. Not even a little bit. So definitely a scary experience, a little bit of imposter syndrome. Am I really qualified to do this? But I had really fantastic mentors, Professor Nerbekian, Professor Wufang, Dr. Wanjun Lee. They sort of taught me all I needed to know. And it taught me how to use ML in a way that I didn't even think was in the scope of ML. I mean, I didn't know that ML could be used to solve these kinds of game theory problems, but it completely opened up my mind. And that's something I'll always be very grateful to the professors and the department for, to give me that kind of opportunity to explore what I liked. And this was also my very first research experience. So that sort of set off the next 4 years of me really enjoying research. And I decided to keep exploring, right? So the next couple of years, I wanted to explore through internships, student orgs, classes. And when it came to student orgs, I really want to spend a little bit of time because this was a core part of my UCLA experience. I mentioned earlier that I attended workshops with ACMAI. I ended up joining them as an officer as well. And I was one of the people who would teach the workshops on machine learning and deep learning. And everyone said this before, if you can't teach it, you don't really know it. So teaching really helped me reinforce my fundamentals on machine learning, neural networks, convolutional networks, RNNs, LSTMs, all these terms that you may or may not have heard of. But teaching them, hearing from the audience, interacting with them taught me, I'd say like 80% of all I know in machine learning, right? And of course, just the community of ACMAI, meeting people, learning from them was absolutely incredible. I tried various other stints as well. I spent time with DataRes, which was a data science organization. I tried being a data analyst. I tried doing sort of data research and fine-tuning GPT. And what's really cool is even though those experiences, I realized I didn't want to do data science long term, things like tuning GPT-2. That was the very first time I was introduced to the GPT architecture. And now in my job, I look at the GPT style architecture every single day. I look at generative models, pre-trained transformers, all these things every single day. And just this experience was a great foot in the door for that as well. Even data analysis. I know I don't like data science and I don't intend on pursuing that as a career. But NumPy and Pandas are things that I got to develop as a part of this club, and it's something that I use every single day as well. Creative labs. I don't fully enjoy software development, and I don't see myself as a mobile developer. But just doing React Native coding for that one quarter taught me so much about software engineering, working with a team, coordinating deadlines, and all those kinds of things. So I wanted to have this slide just to show that even though I knew I wanted to do ML, all these other experiences were incredibly valuable throughout my journey. And I use all those skills every single day. Now, when it came to internships, I did various internships in data science and ML engineering. But again, what I want to emphasize is all the things I didn't know going into these internships. My very first internship, I didn't even know how to code in Python, right? And I got very lucky that my internship supported me while I learned to code in Python. And I mean, it goes without saying that as an ML engineer, I use Python sort of in my sleep, and I have to use Python every single day. But for my first internship, I didn't even know how Python worked. So that was an incredibly nice experience to get to learn Python on the job. Now, I tried various other internship experiences where I learned core software engineering skills like Docker, Kubernetes, continuous integration, and I got to apply them all in an ML engineering context. So this is also really valuable and something I wouldn't have learned without an internship. Finally, in my junior year summer, I interned with the team that I work with now, Qualcomm AI Research, and I got to dive very, very deeply into reinforcement learning, which is again something that I had absolutely no clue about going in. And I got to understand the Monte Carlo tree search algorithm, learn from some amazing people, and again, just learn how to work in that sort of corporate environment. All this is showing that you can learn things while doing things. You don't necessarily need to know everything before you start something new, right? Now, I should also mention exploring can happen at school as well, right? There are some fantastic classes at UCLA, and people always ask me, do you use what you learned in UCLA classes in your job? The answer for me personally is 100% yes, because there are some core classes like linear algebra, machine learning, deep learning that I took, and I use every single day, every single hour, and I will probably use for the rest of my career. There are also classes that I took that I may not use, but completely changed the way I view mathematics, the way I view problem solving, the way I view formulating problems in mathematical ways. Things like ring theory and group theory, I'm not using it in machine learning, but just formulating things in those ways, learning how to prove things, that is something I do every single day in research and in my job right now. And there are also classes I did purely for the vibe. And this is something, again, I encourage everybody to do. Uh, the best thing about UCLA is you get this liberal arts education along with your STEM education. So learning things about rockets, about philosophy, about politics and law, that is a huge part of my UCLA experience. And I would not have given that up for anything. So I encourage everybody, definitely sit in your core classes, learn everything you can. And if something seems like I'm probably not going to use differential geometry later on, you probably will end up using the skills that you learn in that class in some way or another. So definitely enjoy all the classes you have. And finally, in my senior year, I decided to do research with the CS department this time. And this was also sort of a moment of serendipity, right? I was just taking a class with Professor Aditya Grover. I asked lots and lots of questions in his class. I was like, this is a cool person. I'm enjoying his class. I looked up his research. It looked pretty cool. I asked if he was looking for undergraduate researchers. He was looking for undergraduate researchers. So I decided to work with him. And that was a fantastic opportunity because Professor Grover's lab in particular was working on generative models. I decided to work for him sort of a few months before ChatGPT was released. And I got very, very lucky in that sense as well, because I learned about transformers and diffusion models, in context learning, all these kinds of topics that, again, I had absolutely no idea going in, right? And my mentors, Professor Grover, Tim Nguyen, these were amazing, amazing teachers, and they taught me so much about this field. Because now, in my career at Qualcomm AI Research, I'm on the core generative AI team. So all these large language models, these large vision models, stable diffusion, Llama, GPT style models, I'm working on making them work on phones and laptops. So things like making models faster and looking at core metrics, those are skills I learned while I was doing CSM 146. Tearing down individual operations of a particular model, understanding individual matrix multiplications. Those are things I learned while I was doing linear algebra, and those are things I need to know really, really well to do my job well. Things like implementing new algorithms, understanding, probability distributions, all those kinds of things. Those are things I learned as well. Math 170A, fantastic class. Again, completely invaluable to me. I learned so much from that class and I use it every day. And of course, understanding new architectures, adapting to new architectures. Every single day in AI and machine learning, there's a new architecture that somebody is tweeting about. And if you want to understand this, you need to have a core fundamental knowledge of machine learning. And classes like EC 147 and again, linear algebra, I can't emphasize that enough, help me adapt to those different models and understand them very, very quickly. So just overall, I'd encourage everybody to keep exploring everything UCLA has to offer. It's not just the classes, not just the student talks, not the research opportunities. Even the people at UCLA are all incredibly smart, incredibly talented, and incredibly nice, which is very, very important. So learn from them and just keep trying to give things a shot. I think that's the best advice I could give you. And yeah, thank you so much for listening to me. Happy to answer any questions. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn and feel free to chat. So thanks so much.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the slides. That was very, I love how you connected your classes with what you're doing now. I think that's so helpful. And would any of our panelists who would like to go next?
This is Matt. I'll go next.
Oh, sure. Yeah, go ahead.
Can I share my screen?
Yes, I made all of our panelists. You are all co-hosts. If you have something, you don't have to. Yeah.
Okay. Hold on. Again. See that?
Yes, looks good.
Okay. So how you doing? Nice to meet you all virtually. I'm sort of the opposite of what Sudhanshu just told you. I've had a 30-year career at this point, and I'm nearing sort of the end of my career, whereas he's just getting started. So kind of the polar opposite here. This is a talk I actually gave in person on February 29th to the Department of Statistics and Data Science. And I don't know if any of you attended that, but I actually gave that there. And so that's why the date is old, but the information is relevant. So, one of the questions I get is, what is biometrics and what do I do every day? So what I'm doing at this point in my career is I'm overseeing a group of people across three functions. The main function is biostatistics. I am a biostatistician, even though I do have an undergraduate degree from the math department at UCLA. The other functions are data management and SAS programming. And sort of to follow on something that Sudhanshu was talking about, when I joined the industry, this is the pharmaceutical and biotech industry, I didn't know anything about SAS programming. That was not something they taught us in school, and I learned it on the job. So just like he's done, there's some things that are learnable on the job that you may not necessarily learn in college. A typical day for me is a lot of meetings, obviously reading, writing, planning, and thinking. I spend a lot of time thinking. In statistics, if you've taken any of the statistics classes there, it's in one of the inexact sciences. It's literally the study of variability. And there are many different ways to skin a cat, so to speak. So there are often multiple ways to do things the right way. There's a lot of data exploration I do. I still do some SAS programming. I do a lot of presentations to senior management, investors. I work for a startup now, so we deal with a lot of investors and venture capitalists. And then, of course, reviewing results across a wide range of studies. So what's the need? This is the interesting part. There's always going to be a need for biostatisticians. Why is that? It's almost required by law. So there's an administration called the Food and Drug Administration. I'm sure you've all heard of it. It was created in 1906. However, what really became important was in 1962, there was a birth defect disaster with a drug called thalidomide. If you've learned about any of that, you'll know a bunch of pregnant women received thalidomide and gave birth to babies with birth defects. Really bad. And an amendment was made known as the Capauer-Harris Amendment, requiring for the first time that companies prove that their treatments are effective before marketing them and safe. We like to call it the Biostatisticians Employment Act. What happened after that is many other countries followed suit. In Europe, it's called the FDA of Europe is called the European Medicines Agency. In the UK, it's called the MHRA. There's Health Canada, there's one in Japan, there's one in Australia. So you deal with almost every country looking at your drug development program, especially the biostatistical results, to decide whether or not they're going to approve your drug for prescription use by patients. So this is something that there will always be a need for, is in terms of being able to prove safety and efficacy, because it's required to be done so with statistics. So you have to have a hypothesis, you have to run an experiment, you have to show that you have a significant p-value in favor of the efficacy of your drug, and you have to show that the drug is safe, or safe enough that the risk-benefit ratio, what we call the risk-benefit ratio, is a positive one. So how did I get here? I am from San Diego. I did go to UCLA in the late 80s and early 90s. I graduated in 1992. It's interesting in seeing some of the class names that Sudhanshu put up, especially the numbers, they're still the same. I remember Math 115 being linear algebra. I remember 32, 33 sequence being calculus. So not a lot has changed from that standpoint. However, I did see a lot of new classes there that I'd never heard of and weren't there when I was taking them. And I should stress that machine learning is probably going to be the next big frontier in drug development, in order to try to make the industry a little bit more efficient, try to find drugs faster, develop them faster, find better targets, more efficiencies. I'm sure that's all going to play in. I'm sort of at the very front end of it right now. Anybody who joins this industry at your age is going to be deep in the middle of it. So some of those machine learning classes, I think, would be really useful, even in the pharmaceutical industry. Following UCLA, I did get a master's degree in statistics from Michigan. After all this good news about job stability and job availability, I can give you a little piece of bad news, and that is you really need a master's degree or higher. I've not seen an industry statistician without at least a master's degree. I don't personally have a PhD. I have seen several PhDs. I'm not sure that's absolutely necessary. I don't think so, at least not at an industry level. But yeah, you do need to go to graduate school. Oops, here we go. Okay. So, why did I choose the pharma industry? Well, effectively out of grad school, I had been offered 3 jobs, and I know people are interested in sort of what kind of salaries you can get when you have no experience. So I've tried to calculate those here. I was offered a job with a market research firm at General Electric. General Electric, they've been in the news a lot lately because they've been sort of breaking up. And then, so that was doing sort of quality control stuff. And then at Abbott Laboratories, which is a healthcare company that had a pharmaceutical product division. The starting salary for me probably was at the time around 42,000, maybe about 87 and 90 today. I checked with our HR department at my current company, and they think the current starting salaries for an entry-level statistician in San Diego would be in the $80,000 to $105,000 range. So not a bad start. Obviously, if you're in the industry for a long time, you move up, you get promotions. If you're at startups, there's stock and there's benefits. So it's all pretty good. Maybe not something like a Google or that sort of level, but still something's pretty good. I've been through a lot of companies over the years. I spent the first 17 years at basically large pharma, and I spent the last 13 at a bunch of small companies down here in San Diego. This is where I sort of describe what gets me up every day. So this is a list of successful drugs that I have worked on or been a part of developing. And for some serious diseases, this middle one, chronic lymphocytic leukemia, that's cancer. It's a blood cancer. This drug is very effective for that. The one I want to focus on, my very first drug product, ritonavir. This drug at the time, so it's the mid-90s, the AIDS crisis was raging, and Freddie Mercury had died from it. Magic Johnson had been diagnosed with it, and there really wasn't any effective treatments. And what this drug did is called a protease inhibitor, and it inhibited the enzyme that allowed the virus to replicate itself within the body. Very, very, very advanced tech at the time. And I was on the team that helped get this approved. It studied it, helped get it approved. And it's very gratifying because it effectively changed the AIDS crisis as we know it. And now people diagnosed with HIV live a normal life. And they've developed these drugs to the point where, it's certainly something that you can live with easily, and you're practically cured by it. I don't think they've actually developed a cure yet, but they've gotten it to the point where you can't even detect HIV in an infected person's body after taking these drugs. So it's just something that had a profound effect on society, and something you can have a profound effect on society if you're in this industry. It's very, very gratifying, and certainly something that gets me up every day to do what I do. Obviously, in this industry, there's a lot of statistics, understanding modeling, missing data, power and sample size. It's all mathematics too. So I'm using math and statistics every single day. So there's not a day goes by that I'm not using it. So it's a degree that's turned out to be very useful to me. I do get to learn sort of a lot about biology and how treatments work in the body and different therapeutic areas and all of that. Again, it's something that's kind of neat and gives you a breadth of knowledge. As I progress in my career, I have people who report to me, so I have to develop more junior people, and that's always gratifying to do and help people and watch them grow and succeed in their careers. Communication skills are a plus, very necessary. lots of communicating of your results, especially to people who aren't mathematicians, who aren't statisticians. It's really important to be able to present the data and the results in a way that, you know, somebody else can understand. And finally, obviously loving what you do. And I do. I mean, of course, there are days where, you know, it's tough days, but you know, for the most part, it's a fantastic industry, and it's really, really fun to play a part in treating very serious diseases. I can go show you some examples of stuff I do, you know, in the breakout session. Some good places to start while you're still in school. Internships are important. I think Sudhanshu just sort of stressed the importance of those internships. Internships at large pharma are probably starting to be posted and available right now. There's many companies in the area or in California in general: Lilly, Takeda, Pfizer, J&J, Roche, Roche and Genentech, Gilead. You know, there's a whole list of all kinds of companies. I worked at Amgen up in Thousand Oaks, which is about, you know, 30 to 45 minutes away from UCLA, a very large pharma company at this point. I worked there for 7.5 years and helped it grow. There's the FDA. I mean, from a career standpoint, if you're going to FDA, they have a huge statistics group because they've got to evaluate everything that I'm doing. I've mostly seen PhDs there, though. I'm not sure I've seen somebody without a PhD, but there could be. And then we have a whole support industry called contract research organizations that support pharma, including from the statistics side. So certainly, if you know, seek out those internships, maybe they're at the Career Center or on the websites of these large companies. There's lots of them, and I think starting around March they start posting them for the summers. And that's it. So I'll be happy to take any questions in the breakout session, and my contact information is right here for you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for presenting all that information. Berta or Eirik, who would like to go next?
I can go next.
Thank you.
I don't have a presentation. These are very good. I think Sudhanshu and Matt made excellent points. Both of you. I'm probably going to be reiterating some of them. So my name is Berta Sandberg. I have a BS in Applied Math and Computer Science from Caltech, and I have a PhD in Applied Math from UCLA. So I don't know about Eirik, but I can speak from a PhD perspective at UCLA a little bit. I was a teaching assistant for some of the classes that you mentioned. I helped with linear algebra and calculus classes are bread and butter. I did some numerical analysis with like Math 154. I don't know if you still have that. Just the basic math, the numerical analysis class that I was a teaching assistant at. After graduation, I was one of those people that loved research and I stayed on a postdoc for a little bit, as much as I could, and my advisor was very generous with that. And then I went to work for small defense contractors. I do some SBIR work, which is small business. Government gives out some small business work for people, and we would answer those requests, and sometimes we would get support money. So I did that for some contractors, and then at some point I sort of had enough, and I went into the startup industry, and I worked there for 3-4 startups, which is as you can see, you know, the startup comes, the startup goes, but it was a lot of fun. It's a small group where being you know, you feel like you're making an impact. For my first one, I was developing image processing techniques for background detection, stuff that we have on Teams. So I'm using it right now with the background subtraction for Zoom, things like that. It was a lot of fun. It was probably maybe a little bit ahead of its time, and like a lot of things, it passed. I think eventually I ended up transitioning from developing image processing techniques, that was my work, my PhD, into into data science. At that point, it was just sort of starting out, and images and other data. It's a lot of data, and if you apply similar techniques to it, and so I transitioned to that. I worked for an influencer marketing company that we were aggregating influencer data, setting up protocols for it, try to figure out, predict, how certain posts work. Then I worked for an advertising firm selling, clicks, analyzing the clicks for them. A friend of mine started a cryptocurrency analysis company. I worked for him with that. The stuff I did, I think would be called data engineering now, data analysis. And then I ended up going to an energy trading company and setting up some machine learning prediction models for what he should be trading. And then that sort of brought me to my current job, which is machine learning at Southern California Edison. So there are a lot of machine learning data engineers at surprising amount at SCE. They really enjoy that, and they're looking into these things. I work with asset risk, so structures, conductor, transformer switches. We have risk models set up. SCE has lots of data that interesting data that they've collected over many years. It's not quite complete, but it's complete enough that there are a lot of things that we can find out from that information. And they have mitigation programs, so they use the risk information to try to identify which mitigation programs make sense, how they should scope the data. It's one of the interesting things about it is just actually working with, you have your idea of what things should be as a numbers person, and then you give it to somebody to actually go out into the field and work with that. And those are two different things, right? Because what looks good on paper may not be what's practical to do in a physical situation where you're trying to find a structure, you're staring at the structure, and there are all these physical things that could happen that make it impossible to do what you want them to. So it's been a great learning experience, and I enjoy it. What I chose to go into math or applied math because I wanted an undecided major. I didn't know which field I would find would be most interesting to me, and so I figured math is the language of science, and that's what I wanted to do, because you can switch pretty easily. You have the analytic chops to read up on something and learn more and understand it, and then start to apply it. And I think before that, in junior high, I wanted to be an astronaut. And then when the Challenger blew up, I wanted to be an aerospace engineer instead. I realized that maybe I didn't want to be an astronaut that badly. So I think Eirik and Sudhanshu would say there are a lot of programming skills that are involved. A lot of being an analytic person, trying to figure out, what the problems can be, what the constraints on the problems are before you can fit your model, or before you can do some, pull the data, or do some transformations on the data that you need to do. You have to get to know it. You have to learn what's going on. As a data scientist, and probably as Sudhanshu goes up in the ranks, and as Matt pointed out, you have to know how to articulate things. And that's something that I've been working on, and I'm still going to continue working on it. You have to be able to explain things to people. You have to explain, and most of the stakeholders are not going to be mathematicians. They're even the engineers are a little bit of math phobic. You have to have good examples. You have to make things accessible to people. You have to learn patience with people, and it takes over time as you explain things to stakeholders. they start to understand what is physically possible and not physically possible for what they want, because people will come to you and with, I want to, I want a risk model for this. And you have, sometimes they just should not have, they don't need a risk model. Sometimes they should first do some basic statistics on it, or maybe not do statistics at all and just do what, for safety's sake, do the best possible thing. So there's a lot of back and forth with stakeholders as a data scientist to see if what they need and what they actually need versus what they're telling you, because they have to explain the problem and maybe show you the problem before you can see if what makes sense to apply for it. Is it something simpler? Do they need something more complex? Typical workday, I develop risk models or probability of failure models for assets for Southern California, Edison. I also do regulatory support. Everybody knows we had a lot of wildfires, PG&E, SCE, and I think San Diego were first with their huge wildfire, and so we've all experienced the wildfire situation, and I think we all have mitigation programs that the utilities now use to try to make sure that they will not be responsible for the next big wildfire. Cutting back vegetation, making sure the structures are fireproof, making sure that the equipment works properly so there are no sparks. And so, there's regulatory support, there's the machine learning models, there are ad hoc asks where you're doing basic analysis for somebody because they just need somebody who understands what's going on and do some numbers for them. So I think some of the challenges are identifying data, cleaning data, exploring the dynamic nature of the assets. The rewards are finding insights for the company, identifying improvements that the company can make to become more efficient. There are some things that they don't track that they should be tracking. All those things you try to bring up to your stakeholders and hope that they incorporate those things. So currently the company has we're trying to support the state's electrification goals, which means that SC along with the other utilities, we have to increase the amount of electricity that is available. We have to, they also want to make it green. So they're trying to switch over to more green energy and battery supply. And so that there are a lot of things going on, and they are really leaning into the data that they have and sort of the data science and analytics to try to find what is the right path, what is the most efficient path. Some of the advice I would give to students is, be flexible, be ready to change. As a math person, you have the ability to analyze things and to learn new things. So, people should have confidence in that. If it's something and I think we've all said that if there's something you don't know, you can find it on the internet and read up on it, and you'll have a pretty good grasp once you start fiddling with it. There's a lot of information out there. So I think one of the key things that we need to do is we need to learn how to prioritize what makes sense, what doesn't make sense. What's choose simplicity first. I would suggest that you can always add more complexity on later, but see if the simple solution works first. This should work 80% of the time, 90% of the time. And then finally, one quick thing, as you get older, as you grow, every time you have a little bit of a milestone, look back a little bit and say, what how am I going to do things differently, or what would I like to improve in myself so that I can, become better in my field and a better person. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Berta. And last but not least, Eirik.
Yeah, cool. Just bear with me. I'll try and share my screen. It's 2 a.m. over here, so I'm a little bit out of it. It's probably because of that, but let's see. Is it sharing? Everyone can
Yes,
see
we
it?
can see. Yes.
All right, cool. So yeah, I can go first maybe into Rystad Energy and what we are. So it's an energy intelligence company based in Oslo, Norway. We have offices all over the world. We're based in LA as well. And I'm part of the data and insights team, which basically is the data engineers and the data scientists. So we get to go do much of what I think all of us consider the cool stuff, which is the nitty-gritty of machine learning. So first, I'll get a bit into who I am. So I attended UCLA from 2017 to 2021. I was part of the soccer team as well as studying applied math. I had a really good time post working or studying at UCLA. I went for 1 year of working with a software company called Hudley. They do computer vision and meeting rooms combined with hardware. So basically what I was doing there was doing object detection of anyone in the meeting room, and then you apply angles to direct into like which speakers are currently speaking, etc. I think we can discuss details on technicalities in breakout rooms, but post that I went to University College London. I did a master's in machine learning there, where I also jointly worked with a company called Exabel. It's a trading finance, sort of like a quant startup that delegates funds. So I was part of working on an algorithm that was doing the forex trading for the Dutch pension fund. So we're handling about, I think it was $12 billion or something. So those type of things are probably cool for students to hear about when they hear numbers and dollars, etc. But after that, graduated, came straight to Rystad Energy. Sort of after a 1-2 year stint at 2 different startups. One's called Evian, a battery hardware startup where I was developing digital twins and doing some battery degradation of battery modules, which mean you take car batteries, you compact them together into modules, you do some optimization to mimic what the module looks like in terms of the physics, and then you simulate degradations way ahead of time and try and optimize the cycles of those so that they maximize the lifetime. Odin was more of like what is called marketing mix modeling. It's a very niche part of machine learning. It has mainly to do with statistics and probability. So it's sort of this like Bayesian concepts of how you maximize marketing budgets. After that, came here. I've done a lot of like geospatial modeling for solar and wind power generation across the globe. So you handle large amounts of data, make predictions, and try and optimize where the placements of these farms go, and also a lot of the technicalities on like tilts, etc. And now I'm part of building an LLM here in-house. So we have massive data sets on basically the entire energy market, which are all stored and done by analysts. So it's about sort of scraping that data and communicating it back through an LLM. So we're fine-tuning on the data that we have in-house, and then you're seeing a lot of capabilities that you otherwise wouldn't have, like you wouldn't get these with the current models of ChatGPT, etc., because it's very inaccessible data. So short about the degree and career path that I had up to today. I think a lot of this has sort of been covered with the courses that's been taken. It's a lot of the same stuff that's been going in. I think all the courses that I took and listed here were very valuable in my day-to-day work. Probability and statistics is probably the one that you'll have the most advantage of knowing in depth if you're going into machine learning. Numerical methods are very good for knowing optimization techniques and how you're training the models and how they converge to this optimum that you're finding. Computation series, the Python programming courses that they offer in the math department are very good to learn the core skills of the sort of tool that you'll be using every day in your work environment. The electives I took were in machine learning, so the math 156, I believe it is, and the differential equations, I think it's a 134 series or something, and algorithms was the 182, which I think is you learn a lot about runtimes, how you evaluate the efficiency of algorithms. Also a very good skill to have in terms of like how things you implement scale as you get exposed to large data amounts, which I do quite a lot. I do have some advice though. I know Sudhanshu was touching upon like the broad spectrum of classes that are offered to students at UCLA. I think there's like a silver lining between how you want to elect those courses. I have a bit of an opinion on how people and the entire US system kind of goes about GPAs, and when you apply for grad school, etc., that's all you care about. But really do spend that time to nurture what you're interested in. That would be my advice. I think spending time on taking like the Beatles course, etc., and you're spending money on going to do the college, it's in my eyes a bit of waste of money. Like you can take that information up in your free time. You're just exposed to so many great minds, and you won't really have access to what you have currently anywhere else if you opt out of education after the bachelor's. So take that time to really nurture what you're foreseeing, like how you're foreseeing your future, what type of skills you think you'll be building up for. Try and build as much of a knowledge base as you can during that time. So take the hard classes. I'm well aware of the like Brainwalk plugin that people use for Chrome to optimize GPAs and stuff. My strong recommendation would be to don't go that way. Take what you're interested in and not the easy way out. At least that's what I did, and I think I am much happier having done that than maybe having like a 0.1 higher grade average. Even though, speaking for myself, I did manage to get good grades, but it comes with hard work, and I have no regrets in doing so. It really sets you well up for grad school if that's your ultimate goal. So post that, went over to University College London. My main focus here was on probabilistic machine learning. Listed like the core sort of topics that I picked upon during my time there. So for those that don't know, University College London is where DeepMind was founded by Demis Hassabis. They're teaching a lot of the curriculum that's being taught at the campus and have a pretty strong correlation or cooperation, I mean, with the faculty, which was my strong it was the leading factor to why I decided to go there. Also was set on going back to Europe, so led me closer to that job market. I think that's also an important thing to consider, and in case you're doing grad school, it brings you close to the industry connections of where you'll be working, etc., which is highly valuable. There, the main thing I was focusing on was doing some research with what is the statistical machine learning group at UCL with a professor called Mark Dyson-Roth. He is now, I think, the AI leader at UCLA, at UCL, and also at the board of DeepMind. So really smart guy. I had tons of fun working with him. We were cooperating with this nonprofit organization that's called Open Climate Fix, also founded by two ex-DeepMind alumni that what they're doing now is they're managing the national grid. So for those that don't know, that's the sort of like how all electricity in an entire country is knit together as through what you call a grid. And it has multiple sources of energy, and you want to minimize the uncertainty of all those sources coming in, and it has a huge cost benefit and reduce prices of electricity, which has become quite a problem in the UK. So, I mean, my takeaway after grad school was that I sort of already knew what I wanted to do after my bachelor's. I was very interested in like statistics and probability theory. and fascinated by the machine learning landscape that was like rapidly unfolding at the time that I was in at UCLA. So sort of saw the niche. I went into which professors were sort of prominent within the field that I wanted to explore. Found University College London to be a great fit, which is why I eventually went there. I really had a really good time. I think you really look back at that of being a student as something very unique. You get to like do what you find fun 24/7. When you start working, there's a lot of overheads and data handling and stuff that becomes a lot of time goes into handling stuff that are not so fun. Whereas in the academic setting, that stuff is pretty much handled for you prior to when you work. And it involves like the entire sector evolves so rapidly, so learn as much as you can always, even after you finish. It becomes harder staying up to date as soon as you start working. Then you have to dedicate your free time to get up to date with all new literature that's coming out, models, etc. And it does take time. So really make use of the time you have now to get a very good grasp of the technical concepts that you'll be exposed to. So short on what I'm doing now at Rystad Energy is we're building this LLM that I was mentioning earlier. So my part of it, it's a multi-agent LLM, meaning you have several sort of small LLMs all communicating together. I'm working on taking natural language questions and converting them into SQL queries on a very large database. And to do so, it's a lot of like filtering of data and entities and projects. So our databases consist of like many millions of projects, assets, etc. across the globe. So when you're creating SQL queries and filtering on the exact values and doing all this, it requires a lot of fine tuning. It requires a lot of information you're handing over to the LLM to sort of make the accuracy improve. So it's a lot of fun aspects and a lot of machine learning besides just the LLM that goes into creating the product, which is very exciting, especially when you see it come all together and work quite well. I think once you guys start working, my one key thing, especially when you're fresh, is be very proactive when you come into the job. I think a lot of new graduates, they sort of expect every task to sort of be handed over to them. That is not always the case. You have to be quite proactive. So offer yourself help wherever, and tasks will probably be handed to you because there's typically a lot of silos that occur in larger teams. And that really makes you stick out as a person that gets shit done. And early on, when you have a lot of new hires, it's a big segregating factor between who stays and who doesn't. And yeah, it might be a harsh reality, but it's just the way it is. I think also if you're doing now the maths degree at UCLA and you're only doing maths, try and build up your tech stack as much as you can, because you will most likely not be working on pen and paper. Like the software is really the tool that will make it work. And yeah, that is probably one of the key things. And learning is fun. So that's my short little rant on those things. Further advice and insights. So I think what I wish I knew before coming in is when you're doing machine learning, you're very dependent, and you see this a lot now with the big organizations kind of push in the forefront of the most complex models, and like especially now with generative AI. There's two things, and you see this now with NVIDIA stock going through the roof and all that, and those type of hardware, it's very expensive and it's quite limited who has access to like multiple H100s and the massive corpuses of data sets. So it puts a bit of limitations to what you can pull off. So if you're looking in the generative AI landscape and working on pushing and developing those models, I can vouch to what Matt was saying. You will for sure need at least a master's, more likely a PhD, to be working for those companies and building those type of products that you're seeing with like Mixtral, OpenAI, all those companies. I think if you work in as a data scientist, you will likely be put in a field. I think having domain knowledge sort of amplifies the work rate and productivity. You don't really need to ask too many questions across departments. My first experience with work life was that there's a lot of computer science stuff going on. I was very into theoretical math, so I didn't have that tech stack to the point where I felt like I wanted it to be when I started working. So getting to know computer science in an in-depth level is highly recommended if you don't know it already. I'm sure there's probably a lot of good programmers amongst the people listening. And the second thing is how quickly you forget. So as soon as you're out of academia, it's really important that you still apply the mathematics and the things you're learning now quite frequently and at a day-to-day basis. Otherwise, you'll start forgetting even the simple things, and that becomes a bottleneck if you don't. And one thing now, as you're a student, really take use of your professors. They're really a great asset to have such such good knowledge and be so close at disposal. When you start working, you will not maybe have that. Maybe you will. Depends on the team you go in. But it's a really great source of information and learning. I also listed up like the qualifications that we typically look for when we're hiring people. So it's a bit similar to what Matt was saying. We don't really hire people with bachelor's degrees. You need at least a grad, having gone to grad school, or at least compensated with work experience. Typically, we only hire masters with work experience. So, but that's only for us. I can't say for others. You really need to have strong Python skills. That's the main tool we're using, and all the relevant data science libraries that come with. So developing models in like PyTorch, TensorFlow, the scikit-learn, NumPy, Pandas, Spark, AddUp, everything that's listed here. Git workflows is just how you productionize your code and work in teams. Very important skill to know. Docker and Kubernetes is how you put this all together and sort of productionize it. SQL is for handling databases. Cloud services can be good for whether you work on-premise or not. On-premise meaning you're hosting everything yourself and not really depend on anything. That's our motto, but it's not always feasible. The other thing is soft skills. So communicating to stakeholders is really an important part when we're doing projects. Most people don't really care about the nitty-gritty and details of what you've implemented. They just want stuff to work and don't really understand the overhead of what you're going through. So how you communicate that and how you're also able to communicate the importance of what the project is also is a key. I touched upon domain knowledge. I won't go back into that. I think the challenges that I encounter is probably a jargon for most data scientists. You will work with a lot of not so structured data. So there's a lot of noise. There's a lot of data that isn't as clean as maybe what you've done in like Kaggle or now at UCLA, or etc. So data mining, information retrieval, and how to set up those workflows also is a key component to how you will be working if you wish to become a data scientist. And another is the cost of doing machine learning today. So that being just the cost of having access to insane amounts of data and compute is always a limitation. I think almost any problem now can be solved if you have the necessary sort of frameworks around you, but that will not always be the case. So you'll need to be creative on how you sort of bring tools together to work around that fact. So a typical workday for us, I sort of split this 3 ways because it kind of depends on where we are within a project. So we jump from project to project, but projects can take anything from 3 months to several years. So if we're in the initial phase, it's a lot of reading, workshops with the team, scoping out what we want to do and setting the sort of workflow up for how we're going to approach the problem. When you're building the product, that's the fun part. You're working on the task-specific stuff. Building machine learning products have a lot of small components, and some take a lot of time, mostly data handling. Do a lot of maths in that segment. I'm a big like Bayesian guy, so I sort of get handed all the problems that has to do with a lot of the probability stuff. Yeah, the frequentist versus base discussion that can take an hour, but I won't get into that. So we work through Jira boards, if people are familiar with that, and Confluence for documentation, etc. And then at the end, when everything is done, it's about setting everything up together. So then you have a workflow of many models communicating together. So I included like the little visual of how the current LLM that we're building now is communicating. This is some of the components. This was sort of the POC. We're still, so POC meaning proof of concept. We're still in that phase, but there's a few more elements that's been added since then. So I had this POC actually hosted, so I'll show that, I think, in the breakout room if people are interested. But I think I'll stop at that. So thank you guys for tuning in.
Yeah, thank you so much. Sorry, like, you had such, I would have loved to seen that too. But yeah, you can definitely share that in your breakout rooms. And for everyone who is still here, all the students, we will put you into, so we're going to put the panelists in the breakout rooms, and then you'll be able to just kind of hop in and out. So we'll get that right now.
Thank you so much for, let's give our panelists a round of applause. I know virtually, maybe throw out some hearts out there. We're going to go ahead and stop the recording at this point. So thank you so much for being here today.